a quote by Arthur Williams. And the quote goes like this: remember, before you can be great, you've got to be good. Before you can be good, you've got to be bad. Before you can even be bad, you've got to try. That's a beautiful quote with a lot of truth in it. When I think about photography and photographers, especially those who are first starting out, what happens in that sort of timeline, a lot of younger photographers, and I'm going to put myself in there too. In my early 20s, when I started, I knew enough to be dangerous and I knew enough to be egotistical. It wasn't until decades later that I learned the true value of structure and creativity and how the two worked, which I'm going to explain to you in a second. But yeah, it's a dead end, which many find themselves, they end up in this cul-de-sac spinning around and not really going anywhere. And the main problem is their own attitude, their own mindset, or lack of mindset, and basically their ego gets in the way, and they think that they're creating art. My premise is, my theory, my thesis is that you need to get good so that you can go out into the marketplace, and all of these things require structure and discipline. It sounds contrary to what you need when you're combining art, but it's not true. Any author, painter, poet, or sculptor who's been successful knows this to be true. Well, I'm going to say 99.8% of the time, that in order you to really get good at your craft and to be prosperous as well and to be truly creative, you need to be prolific, and that takes discipline in art. I discovered this in my 40s. I had been working in the field for at least 20 years, not really knowing, probably largely surviving out of necessity, in part maybe because the alternatives weren't there for me. But I had a drive to be in business, and the opportunities presented themselves, and I, for the most part, really enjoyed it. Felt good about what I was doing, so that kept me in the game. But in my, I'm going to say late 30s, early 40s, a few years after being married and my wife and I working together and taking on marketing and starting to place structure, I quickly realized that I got better in my craft because my work was better, because I was shooting more, because I was managing my time better, and I was far more disciplined. At my peak, I was probably photographing 700 to 800 sessions a year. And that contributed to this. So the point being, if you're not great and you're not good, maybe you're bad, but you got to try. You got to start moving into that direction. I had a friend of mine tell me years ago he was waiting for the Muse, when the Muse kicks in. And I said, no, you got to kick the Muse in the balls. That's the only way that you're going to be creative. The only way to get things rolling is to use discipline, planning, goal setting, time management, and vision. This is a struggle for a lot of young photographers who are starting out, or a lot of people who are simply getting into the art of whatever it is they're doing. They start to create and they think they've got it, they've achieved it. Look at what I've created. That is a dead-end road. You got to push beyond that. You might be only in the first few steps of being good, and it might be like only 5 or 10% of what you're capable of doing. What you're capable of doing will not present itself, will not reveal itself, will not show up as an opportunity in your life in a myriad of ways. There are dozens and dozens of ways with which opportunities show up if you keep pushing and looking for ways with which you can progress, as long as you don't stay in that cul-de-sac. So that's how I see creativity and discipline working hand in hand with art and mastery of your craft. So That's all I got to say about that. Thanks.